Or maybe it's evaporate. That would be fun.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Night Flight. Today I have Lauda Leon with me. Her website is sovereignki.com. Ki is written K-I, not K-E-Y. So I have to read this. She serves as a meta-ki-quintetics psychic counselor. We will find out what that is. A forensic anomalous profiler, spirit seer, a practitioner of spirit energies. So, Lauda, welcome.
Thanks, Judith. It's lovely to be here. Hello, Germany. Hello, everyone.
So what is the difference? I guess everybody knows what a counselor is, and what exactly is the difference between a usual counselor and a meta-ki-quintetics psychic counselor?
Yeah, my background is in psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but my first background is in the supernatural and the paranormal from my life experience. So I combine the two and essentially work with the natural energetics and the spirit. So we're in a quantum reality, which is an infinite amount of dimensions, densities. It's unlimited, right? Because of the way that we mind manifest. So meta-ki-quintetics is the energy, the quantum energy in connection to a basis in human psychology and the basis of human experience, of anthropology, cultural, archaeological, humanitarian, all levels. So it just combines it all, and it doesn't exclude the parapsychology aspect of it all, because we are supernatural. So it is a combination of those two, and my spirit connects with other people's spirits, and usually go into an excavation. So it's an anomalous forensic excavation where we start digging deep into layers so that things can be revealed, so that the energies can be shifted, and that movement can start happening, doors can start, and things can start sealing down. Like, you know, some things have to be shut forever, removed, for other energies to be able to move and come in, so that you can keep evolving. And actually it's towards emancipation, self-liberation. It's you know, removing the shackles, removing old patterns that keep repeating themselves, that people are imprisoned in. So it combines. It's not exclusive, because everything is energy. So you can't just have psychology and deny energy and the fact that everything is an energy. So the energies, you have to follow your spirit. You have to literally target the things that are hidden in places that are unconscious, subconscious, even in consciousness, things are hidden. So yeah, it's inclusive.
Yeah, wonderful. Good idea. Because I think the regular therapists, psychologists lack a lot of things.
No doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. I mean, you know, there's some psychology that is really fascinating. I love Jungian psychology. I think he was pretty brilliant, and there's a lot that Freud did too. But they didn't exclude the supernatural. It's just that they had to be more conventional. Jung wanted to go much more into the supernatural, but he was bound at that point in time. So he had to do it in a different way that was more accepted, kind of like, you know, alongside theosophy almost. So, but now, I mean, it really is, it really has to do with a person's gifts and abilities. And then you can have the education background, which is what, you know, you're acquiring, to utilize it in a different way. So it's much more, it's supernatural, but it's pragmatic. So you have keys that you can use on a daily, you can't just be, oh yeah, it's just all spiritual stuff. Well, you can't, if you're too much spirit and not enough earth, then you're neutralized. So you need to have a balance between, you know, your spirit and your body have to be married. So you know, this is where you combine the two so that they function simultaneously, or they learn to. they learn to unite, because
Would that be the holy marriage?
that would be the holy marriage. That would be the eventually it would be the holy marriage once people learn how to marry the two, so that they're simultaneously, spontaneously, always in union, without any kind of without creating any opposition in your own universe, without creating any energy that works against you because you're trying to use your ego too much. So that unity between the two, the more that you flow together in that, everything in your universe flows. So it's very much a part of the beginning of the true marriage, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I heard you once say that you came in with your memories intact. Is that correct?
Yep.
What
I'm
does
not going to
that
say
mean?
all of them in infinity, okay?
Mm,
Because that's not, I mean, that's not healthy for any embodiment to carry. But I came
mm.
in with a huge amount of my memory intact, and I was also told that it was something was done uniquely to allow that to happen
And who told you that?
for a purpose. So I'm just going to say that it is like the holy, outside of the matrix, outside of all of the matrices, outside of the antiverse, outside of the creation of this inverse, the realm, the eternal realm. This is where it originates. So before coming into birth, this was communicated to me. I don't want to get too much into it because it's going to be in a book,
Mm,
and it's 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 a story within itself that reveals a lot. But one of the things that was told was that it was permissible, and they had to do something to allow this to occur, because it's so contained here that it isn't easy for them to do that. It's not easy to have somebody that can come in without being wiped like that. So
mm.
yeah, it was not it's not common at all, but it was necessary, right? So a part of this, it doesn't make it easier, by the way. It makes it harder, actually.
Yeah,
In
that's
some
true.
ways, so that was challenging, because from the moment I was born, I have memory of even traveling to the birth body. I have complete memory of it all, a complete memory of everything, and being, finally, like, it was volatile because I was going so fast. That when I hit the body, it was extreme pain coming into this density, coming into the body of the little blobby body, because
Yeah.
you're stuck in a block. Like, you can't move, you can't do anything, you can't talk, but you're fully conscious. And the thing is, see, you come in with that dimensional, multi-infinite dimensional mind, memory, consciousness, but suddenly you're in the most densest place that I've ever encountered. And it is just one of the worst experiences. It is like a torture. It is absolutely like a torture. And yeah, it was really challenging for me to be in that body. And day in and day out, 24 hours in that body, from the moment, of that body's birth. uh, I just, I just kept saying to myself, I have to survive this, like, let alone anything else. Like, this is, I have to survive.
I totally get what you mean. I don't have all my memories, and I definitely didn't have that one where I'm coming in. And the only thing I remember is that when I was very little, I always had this very pronounced feeling, I don't belong here. Everything is wrong here.
Everything is. Oh, yes.
Everything is wrong here.
Right, and see, it's interesting if you consider the flip side of both accounts, right? On the one side, I came in with full consciousness.
Mm.
I came in with the abilities that were way beyond the human body, and so it made it almost torture also, because as soon as another energy would come near me, it would be overwhelming. It was almost like overload autism, because that energy, I could just see into everything. So here I am, as I can't talk, right? Because I'm a baby and I can't talk, but I know telepathy. And then I realized that in this density, nobody really, well, people don't know how to use telepathy, so everybody uses the throat. And so I just found that so primordial and so difficult. How it is actually difficult to talk through the throat if you're not used to it. And I don't
Mm.
know if people realize that. So I really didn't speak for 8 years. I was very quiet. When I did speak, it was only to say something psychically to somebody, because I was just seeing it so clearly that that's what would come out of my mouth. But other than that, I didn't. I was around animals. I was just rescuing animals, frogs, anything that needed to be rescued. That's where I spent my time, nature and animals. That's all, like the energy that I could handle. I couldn't even see a movie for years, because movies are very strange kind of magic. It's dimensionally, a movie will take you through dimensions. So my experience with it here was completely different from everybody else's, because when you're watching a movie, it's taking you into those dimensions. So I think for a person who doesn't have, or who doesn't come in with that level of dimensional consciousness, they don't experience that like that. They are experiencing like the 3D level, but for somebody that had come in like I did, it's agony, and it almost feels like you're going to get lost in it. Like it's, so you're no longer experiencing a three-dimensional anything. You're now it almost feels like you are taking the fabric of reality itself, and you're going to bend it in weird ways, and God knows what's going to come of it, because you're now in strange dimensions that you don't normally go into. So, and this is the magic of what movies do. In fact, people don't really realize it. I mean, people know that it can be just like a mirror, right? A mirror can be used through magicians and initiates for many things, right? A mirror can be used and has been used for thousands of years. I mean, this is a mirror reality, so it's all based on mirrors. But a movie acts much like that through the lens of your eyes, so, which connects to your all your spirit brain matter and all of that. So I couldn't even do movies for years. Like I had to. It was like, when you're you have to take a substance a little bit at a time to get used to it, so
Mhm.
develop an immunity to it, so that eventually you can finally eat it or whatever. It
Mhm.
was like that. That's how I had to do it. So,
Yeah.
but even walking times, like my perception, dimensionally, my perception here was always very different, because even the way that this reality is created and the way that it works, it's that your body interfaces with its technology. So your technology interfaces with its technology, and that's how you blend together. But when you come in that multidimensional consciousness, you realize that it's not, there is nothing fixed here. So when you're looking and you're walking on the ground can be right here, but to you, it could be down here. So you go to walk, and you're perceiving it differently. So you're perceiving everything differently. So you almost have to learn how to just navigate through the way that this reality has been created, so that eventually you know where the wall is, and it is over there, and you know where it was really difficult. Uh,
Mhm.
I'm just, yeah, I can't even, not exaggerating.
Yeah. Although I don't have that personal experience, I can imagine it. Hmm. So, recently I heard you say there is no such thing as a sanction. And I have to say that hit home with me. And I thought, oh, finally.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really, not something that a lot of people want to look at, not something because people really like that whole concept of ascending, going outside and continuing in, you know, upward somewhere out there. Because here isn't good enough for some reason. It's all in here. It's all in here, and you're going deeper into yourself. So, I mean, if you're gonna explain it, like I call it descension, because we're going deeper in ourselves, deeper in our own. You know, it's not the whole concept of grasping something out there is what's gotten us into trouble.
Yeah.
So it's not out there, it's in here. So we're going deeper within ourselves as we have and grow our memory, remembering. It takes you deeper into all of the concept of reality as being, you know, I mean, you're like one particle inside a larger mass of infinite particles, and everybody's trying to exit to try and get ascension, which it doesn't even make sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense. Because my experience of reality is that the infinity is within you. So your power takes you deep, 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 deep within your own being, so much so that you're descending into your potential, which is unlimited. It is infinity itself. So, you know, I mean, it's a hard thing. I wrote an article about it, actually, just because it was easier for me to do it like that than to explain it. But, you know, the whole avoidance of our matter, the whole idea and the concept of ascension is such that you're no longer in this matter. But I know that what's happening in the convergence of the event horizon means that all that is you from infinity goes into your matter. So thus creating a marriage between really everything in matter, even more so, no longer requiring a holographic mirror reality. You now create in matter of your own being all that you are. That's essentially the marriage, ultimately, you know?
Okay. When I look at that, seeking it outside, I see several subjects connected to that. Savior programming and this, I want to go home.
Totally, yes.
Yeah.
But you are home. Home is
exactly.
You are home. And, you know, again, the way that the programming works here has always been to exit. So everything has been designed in such a way that the psyche of the person from the get-go, you've inherited the psyche to want to escape. I mean, this is I'm not going to say this is not, this is an unkind reality, in that the way that we're experiencing life here can be the most excruciating, because people are lacking their ability to tap into their meta abilities. So they're only doing it virtually or through their subconscious or unconscious. And that's why it's sort of gone rogue, right? Because everybody's doing this kind of stuff with their meta abilities, but in a rogue, unconscious way. The desire to escape, because it's so difficult here, it's difficult within your own matter, but you're not taking your abilities and your gifts into your own hands. You're not taking your universe into your own hands and using your abilities here in matter, because when you start doing it, it can be really beautiful. So it isn't out there. Out there is in here.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally whatever the concept of people have that is out there, it's in here. All those worlds are in here. You're the representation of them all in
Yeah.
matter.
You would have been burnt at the stake for saying that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I probably wouldn't have made it to 3 years old.
Yeah. And another thing that ties into that is this story, oh, you're not good enough. You're a sinner, you have this
Oh
inherited sin, and your carbon footprint is so dirty.
yeah,
You
right.
better stop breathing right away.
Right. So you have to ask yourself, what energy would be interested in creating a reality based on that?
Mm-hmm.
What hijacking energy would like create a world, program its people to be in terror, because that's what it is,
Mm.
and therefore keep everyone through terror and trapped in a belief system of damnation. Damnation, sin, you're of no value. The only value that you have is if you believe in something out there that we tell you about, right? You just have
Yeah.
to trust that I'm telling you something good, but I'll just tell you, you could be putting your trust in the Demiurge, which is what it is, right? And you're just like,
Mm.
sure, because I'm terrorized. I mean, psychologically speaking, this is, this is how a lot of the, the black government projects and all of this, they know, all the governments know how to psychologically break a person down
Mm-hmm.
to get them to do whatever they want. And it's through fear. So they learned that from the fallen. They learned that from the demiurge. They learned that from the archontic mind. They learned that from the parasite, because you put a being in a planet that, to begin with, well, it wasn't, I'm not going to say planet, it's a realm. You put a being in a realm, but the environment itself is difficult to survive in. It wasn't always like that, but it's become that. So you put them there, and the nature of survival itself is so hard, but you also delete their ability to regenerate their cells, so that now they have to die early. So they don't have enough time to remember anything. As soon as they start remembering something, now they're, diseased and dead, essentially, which is all, they're all false concepts. None of those things really truly exist. But the agony that people have to survive and have had to survive makes it very easy to terraform a person's mind and then give them a religion, give them a false anything that you want to control them. So then they have, right. So then you just have children, and they inherit that memory in their cells already. So now you've got a very interesting technology that is occurring, that is happening through the DNA. And that technology is literally embedding the programming in the person. So now it's there anyway. Subconsciously, it's there. The terrain has been mapped out. Now, they can absorb, they can even absorb it through osmosis all around them, and they're going to react and respond just like their parents. And before you know it, you have control over an entire realm. And everybody's believing, too afraid, too terrified to step out of the belief system, because then they think they're going to be struck down by a supernatural thunderbolt from heaven.
Yeah, well, I dropped many.
Hell realm.
Well, that does not happen. I dropped many belief systems. I'm still sitting here.
You're still kicking. Yeah, no thunderbolt.
Yeah, I can attest that it only gets better from there.
There's no belief systems often in all of these religions. They're to imprison the mind.
Mm.
people would ask me, well, in the Bible it says that you're not supposed to do astrology, numerology. You're not supposed to do any of the divination. You can't do anything that means that you're actually going to find out about yourself. You can't do any. Don't use your abilities. Don't use your meta being abilities, because you're a meta. Okay? Don't use anything. You're not allowed to use what you are. I'm going to tell you what you have to be. And it means you can't use any of your abilities, your powers, or your mind even. So I'm going to tell you that if you do that, you're going to go to hell. Because now, do you see what I'm saying? Like, the depth of what has been done to people is removed the supreme being that you are from you. And you have now transferred all of those meta abilities onto some demiurgic force that is there, like pinning you into your own underworld. And thus, through theft of your abilities, through theft of your meta being, you now are living as a prisoner with no gifts that you can use, no mind of your own. But now this force has taken your gifts, taken your meta being abilities, taken what you have, and grown larger, bigger. It's a creature that is really growing because of what it steals. And so then you realize that it stole your life, literally. This is also how your soul gets stolen as well. Because over time, the more that you acquiesce to that, the less consciousness you have. Because you're not using what you are. It just keeps being taken from you lifetime after lifetime. Until eventually, who's there? Is there any part left?
Nobody at home.
Nobody at home, because, it's all been taken. And this is actually very much what's happening in not just, religion is a really good example of it, but there's a lot of energy workers doing this. There's a lot of shamans. There's a lot of, quote, gurus. And the list goes on of this happening. It's theft of a person, it's theft of a life, theft of a soul, theft of consciousness. It's like complete theft. So that then you're just no longer you. You're just a vessel, a biological vessel that is being used for anything else to come in it.
Yeah. And at the same time, while we are being told, oh, do not look at astrology and so forth, they are using all that, the controllers, against us, so that we do not understand.
Exactly. That's my point. Bingo. Like, they're saying that to keep the knowledge from you away from you. So they don't want you knowing about you. So it's the same with DNA, right? They don't really want you knowing anything about your DNA. So there's this concept, oh, well, I shouldn't do any DNA testing because then it's going to get to the projects and they're going to use it. And they already have everybody's DNA.
I think so too.
Not at all. Like, they are the ones that have the knowledge about you and your DNA. You deserve to know about your DNA. You deserve to know about who you are, who your universe is, and what that is. So all of this is designed to take it away from you. So, look at, as soon as you're born, they want everybody to go into hospitals, because hospitals are just a cover up for collection of data, of DNA of people, of, because they want to find the primes and they want to find the mechas and they want to find, all the lineages that are connected to all of those meta being families of origin. So they want people going in hospitals, and as soon as you get in a hospital, you get this thing called birth certificate, and a birth certificate has all of your data, numerology, astrology, and everything. They take that, they take the time you're born, they take everything about you, if you're a prime or a mecha, and then they have you mapped out completely.
What is that, a prime and a mecha?
Prime, so the prime is what I call, because there's backdrop reality, because it's a holographic interface reality, right? So they hunt the primes, which is prime original being. So in the origin of evolution, there are obviously those that have been created from the fire of original creation. Those are the lineages they hunt. And they're not interested in somebody who's just a backdrop, or who's a, hybridized, organic, biological creation that isn't of that. They want the meta. They want, and everything is about the meta. And they're harnessing it. They don't want you having your meta abilities. They want to use it for whatever they want to do. The procurement of the reality they want to create. So you're actually providing the fuel for it from your meta abilities. You're providing the fuel for everything because they're hacking you. They're taking it. But so upon birth, they have all your astrological, numerological details. They've decoded you. They have it all. And then they go make money on it. And then they engineer your life. Right? So it's an incredible thing to me to see. And it's really sad, because you see throughout history, especially, you read about the Dark Ages, or you read the whole Middle Ages, you read all about, that there was such an oppressive suppression of everything, that it was the epitome of being shackled. It was the epitome, but that has continued. So it still is the Dark Ages. Now there's much more of a release of information, because it's coming towards the end of the cycle, which is what they do. It's not accidental that throughout time, there's always a pinnacle point. And the pinnacle point is a release of information where it's enlightenment, and a lot of people are able to access things that they weren't allowed to access in the past. And then it's lights out, right? And then they just restart the hologram again. And it's a whole different version of reality. So, this is all also a way to trap everybody into this eternal loop that is being experienced. This loop where you don't have enough consciousness or remembrance to actually start taking the fabric of reality and doing what you need to with this, so that none of those things affect you anymore. That you're the one that's creating what you want to live in, which is what it should be. It's like we have to learn how to use our abilities to create the world we want to live in, to create the world that we are. Because that is an amazing thing. It doesn't have to be this antiverse. It doesn't have to be an inverted reality where everything's just inverted. In the hands of those elite, in the hands of those beings you never really see. It's all cloak and daggers. It's all like hidden beneath, mystery under that's going to have you chasing your tail in the Ouroboros, right? So, I mean, it's written in ancient texts that there was a time when the gods walked amongst men.
The so-called gods.
Women.
The self-proclaimed gods.
Right. But, in that time, I find that interesting because, well, yes, the so-called gods, but at least they were the ones that were the engineers, the DNA engineers, right? They were the ones that were playing with their technology and, basically hacking the whole system even more so, and doing a bunch of experiments. But now you don't even see who they are. They're all hidden.
So, Lauda, would you say they double check, let's say, while somebody is coming in, that they monitor, let's say, like soul codes, who's coming in, absolutely. And then they double check in the hospitals?
Oh, so what happens when you're born is that you go through this net, like electromagnetic grid net system. And as soon as you enter, it reads you, it scans you instantly. So it knows when the primes come in. It knows exactly, you know, who you are instantly.
And then an alarm goes off.
And then alarm, absolutely, and they track you exactly from where you are, and boom, 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 everything starts. So then you've got weird stuff happening in the hospital, like the baby gets taken away and can't be with the mother, and God knows, like you just, whatever, right? Whatever, so that they start doing it. They just start right there. And it just begins instantly. It begins instantly as soon as you go through that electromagnetic grid soul mapping technology.
Mm. Or they design a very nice derailment program for your life.
Oh, they do. Yes. Absolutely, because your life is engineered. It's the product of engineering. They go right in and they create scenarios, they create a version of reality that you're living in, and it just, you're living that, and you are completely removed from what you are. Even, okay, so for people, it's interesting because for people that came in with the abilities the way that I came in with, they were very obvious. They were very, I mean, because I was levitating and stuff in public. I used to be terrified because I said, if I ever levitate when I'm outside, I don't know, I'm going to just keep going up. Like, I was terrified that I wouldn't know how to get down. Keep going, because when it would happen, thank goodness it would always happen when I was inside a place. I had the roof, right? Like, so I had the ceiling that I at least could cling to. But people like me, it was very difficult for them to engineer a life around that, because I was a product of supernatural phenomenon. And they really had to go and do a lot to try and stop it. But it was just like, it was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare in many ways, because I was fortunate enough that I didn't end up in some, you know, underground facility for the rest of my life, because I know it was attempted, but it was forbidden. I had to stay above ground, thank goodness. But the thing is, usually children that exhibit supernatural phenomenon to that degree, they go missing. Because if they can't contain you in society and then, you know, terraform your life the way that they want, so that they derail you, and then they do whatever they want with your abilities and your DNA and everything that you are, then they remove you. So if they can't contain you, they remove you. And they had a really difficult time containing me, because it was just all this phenomenon constantly around. And I didn't know how to control it. That was really bad. I just did not have a clue how to control it. So I was blowing up televisions, and then, yeah, I wasn't allowed to go near TVs. I wasn't allowed to go near anything that was really, I had to sit at the back of class all the time, right? Like, away from everything and everybody. You know, I was called the devil's child, right? Because, you know, all this stuff was happening that to them, I was like the spawn of the devil. So, you know, it was really interesting watching how they were trying to contain me. And I mean, you know, that comes with some pretty ugly stuff, because they'll do surgery on you too, right? Because what they want to do is they want to stop your abilities. Because if you actually begin to be in control of them, it's over for them. Can you imagine? Right? I mean, I'm talking about abilities that you walk through walls. Like, I was a kid, I had no control over this stuff. It would happen, I'd be terrified, but that's how it was happening to me. It would just happen. So they would do very extreme things to contain or try to contain it, which, like I say, are not pleasant. It isn't just going and trying to induce hypnosis in you to shut down your abilities. No, they'll go as far as do surgery and things. So there's that dark side of how this system works. I think it was by the time I was about in my teens, at that point, I stopped having the extreme the extreme abilities, the extreme phenomenon, but there was still a lot of phenomenon happening. And then at certain times, if I was super stressed, they would occur again inexplicably, right? Because you don't, you know, there's a part of you that you don't understand what's triggering it all the time or how it is that, you know, it happens. But yeah, I would smash glass, like it would go into millions of pieces. Like I would walk by if I was stressed, the whole like glass wall would just shatter. I, you know, I remember losing a couple jobs actually because they knew I was like, you know, had like total their computer systems. Technology has a hard time with me until it gets to know me. So, you know, when something doesn't know you, when the technology doesn't know you, you just short it out or you just like blow it up. I like blew up a lot of things growing up. I was blowing things up all the time. Like,
accidentally.
accidentally. I didn't, oh God. Very stressful.
So, if memory serves, I also heard you say that the recycling cycle is finished. No more.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
No.
So is this Endgame, make it or break it, and no more recycling of the souls?
Yeah. Yeah, as per, yeah, because the thing is, this inverted reality antiverse creation system that we're in is imbalancing the entire universe, if you will. So it's come to a point where if it has to be, it is the end game because it can't, it now is at, it's at the precipice point of potentially extinguishing all of the universe. So it can't be allowed to continue.
Okay, so in other words, what's going on here is so bad that it has
Yes,
effects on
everything,
mm-hmm.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
The whole balance of the, you know, I call it the infiniverse because there are all these universes, not just, this is the antiverse version of the uninverted verse. So, but this is now affecting everything in the uninverted verses. So no, it can't be allowed to continue. It's just so out of control. I can't even tell you how out of control this is. I mean, this is and the damage that it's doing and the potential capability for destruction of all that is. That's, yeah.
And what is your feeling? How might that go down, that there will be put an end to this nonsense?
Well, I mean, there's many aspects to dealing with reality in its own because there's no time and space, right? So the concept of time and space is something that's been introduced artificially so that we can streamline evolution for our experience. So all things happen simultaneously. In essence, we can see it's already happened. And the convergence, and I talk about the convergence of the event horizon, is where all of the ignition points occur. And, you know, George and I have done a lot of work on this to bring the material out. In effect, causing a supernova of all celestial being bodies. And when that happens, this is also happening within us. So it's a very complex thing to explain that as this happens, because everybody has a creative ability and everybody has created already what they've created. Whatever they continue to play out has to play out in a sense in a certain time and space as this all happens. But I speak about the splitting of the cells, which is also what is happening in creating a new infiniverse. We're already creating a new one, but this one, the collapse of this one, will happen when the splitting of the cells split, because then you have one cell that is a new creation. It's a new universe, and it's not it's not a universe that's connected to the inverse. The old cell that's left is going to be left to play out what it needs to, because they have to be decisive ultimately in consciousness, one way or the other, ultimately, you know, but they're going to be left in their old cell. It's an old state of consciousness. So the consciousness of the old cell is going to be the inverse. It's going to be that. So you look at if you look at a realm that it consists of, let's just say, pedophiles and all of the horrifying things that are happening, they have to live that out onto their own dissolution. So they have to literally extinguish themselves out of existence, use up whatever original quantum essence is in there will be eventually dissolved, unless they truly choose and change. There's no ability to jump into the new universe. Okay, once the cells split, it's two universes. One is going to be living out its potential in destruction, or whatever it is that they chose to live out, until it's dissolved.
Space dust.
Space dust. Yeah. While the other cell is created, it already has created its own new universe. And this is where dissension is what happens, because when we converge in the event horizon, our own event horizon converges in the new universe to become your much more matter material. Now you will create a real state of matter being, not just the hologram mirror version reality. Now you get to live, because you've descended within your being and taking everything in, you've become more of what you are in that new universe, with all of your, you know, capabilities in the meta. Like, you will then begin to really learn how to manifest and how to use all that you are. It's not going to be just this shut down reality where you just, you know, you can't, if something is used, it's used against you, or you're using it subconsciously without control. But the splitting of those cells, absolutely.
Okay, so that would be a huge chunk of explaining why the real work needs to be done inside and not out there fighting for freedom, fighting for this and that. That will never work.
That's why you have a body. That's exactly the reason why you have a body, because the work is in the body. That's your, like, just the way that Terra is Terra, Earth is Earth. Terra has a body. Her body creation is where all creation stems from. We are our own Terra. That our creation stems from. It's from us, from our body. So it can't be from out there when you're already a body. Like, you're a body because this is where it has to happen. This is where all of your amazingness can, like, come through. This is where you take in and you pull in all the celestial heavens and start emanating them. And through emanation, you create wonderful things. I mean, we've read accounts and you know, beings that would just produce beautiful fruit in their hand, you know, because it's a state, like, you've married all of your celestial capability, all of your potential, of all the stars that you are, of all the heavenly celestial points of origin and creation, the original light, that's what you're emanating. It has to be from the body. That's why it's dissension. You're going deeper in.
Isn't that a nice deception? Always having this carrot of Ascension dangling in front of.
Right. Yeah. And it takes you farther and farther and farther away from you, and farther and farther. And, you know, like this obsession, sometimes that, like, you know, people want to do astral travel.
Mm.
Nope. That's astral travel. Astral travel. No.
No.
No. No.
No.
You gotta go in travel. Like, go in travel.
Exactly. So another part of that distraction and deception, we talked a little bit about it before we started recording. We have all these isms running around, like nationalism, Hinduism, Buddhism, anarchism, blah, 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 blah. There is no end to isms. And people think by slapping those labels on them, magically they have an identity. Nothing could be further from the truth.
No, because nothing has an identity, because there is no ism. Like, that's the irony. Actually is no ism. It's never was. Like, never was. Again, right? It takes you out there. I'll tell you, when you go out there, you suddenly are under the radar of every single predatory force in existence in this inverse. You now have like basically created this big neon sign for everything to come on in, because by virtue of going out, you're open to an invitation of whatever, which, you being infinite, having the infinite verses inside you, now they can come in and start terrorizing you, you know. So when people learn that it's not through going out there and it's through going in here, you have these incredible boundaries that these predatory forces can no longer just get into, because you're sealed within your own verse. But when you're going out there, and this works with all the isms. All the isms take you out there. It's another form of astral travel. You may not know it, but you are. Because you're now putting all of your consciousness into that ism that's taking you now out there somewhere. God knows where. You know? So it's the same thing. It's a breach of your own being. So you've just opened yourself up completely to whatever. And now you're going to be dealing with all those forces in some strange ways in your life that are going to come through a lot of mishaps, a lot of, you know, these experiences that are going to be painful through the workings of the engineered life that you live. Yes, all the isms.
Yeah, exactly. And can you remember last year? I guess it was last year, coming back to this escapism. There was this hype around the event when everybody was supposed to go home. And I thought a lot of people will have a lot of egg on their faces.
Yeah, well, I think there is a lot of egg on their faces, but like not that they want to admit it. So here's the irony, right? Here's the irony. People are struggling just to maintain survival here. They haven't even begun to touch their potential. They're just surviving this really strange, hijacked, engineered version, and they don't even really know who they are. They don't remember, but somehow they're just like, now you're just gonna send and know everything, but you are not the example of anything that knows anything, because you're like lost, searching, you're in the dark, you're trying to get your memories back, you don't know what life is about, you don't know what anything is about, because everything is just so hidden from you. So how do these two contradictions even find a place? The world at large is lost, trying to like do everything it can to find its way back to itself. So in the midst of all of this happening, where people are just doing all that they can to just learn how to work their body, even learn how to master their body, learn how to communicate with your organs, that everything that is in you has an essence of its own, a mind of its own, a spirit of its own. They don't even like it's like the contradiction is so immense that my mind can't even like wrap itself around it, because it's not possible, quote, to even be thinking that you're going to have that experience when you are the like manifestation of a being that's still trying to figure out who they are, because there's no memories, and the memories are just starting to come back. How do you just through an event ascend? Now you become like a super being. How does that work? You know, one day, and this goes for us all, okay, because we're all here trying to figure this out. So how does this work? So we're all here having to pay bills that are ridiculous to survive, or mortgage. We need food mostly. Okay, there's not a lot of breatharians. Our bodies are vulnerable to the environment around us. We don't know, people are just learning how to like deal with creating boundaries so that they don't allow certain energies to like eat you alive. You're just literally as a being dealing with the state of reality in a survivalism way. The hierarchy of what your needs are what you're dealing with. So how in the world through an event can you just ascend? You know?
And where to?
And where to? Like, it can't work like that. It's a physics impossibility. It's a numerical impossibility. It's a frequency impossibility. Literally, it's a frequency impossibility. Your frequency is here, and you're just learning, okay? So you're an electromagnetic frequency, and you're learning your own, and you're in a pool of other electromagnetic frequencies, and you're all here just trying to learn, you know, your like reality together, like, ooh, this is that. And then what? Like your frequency is going to go from here to suddenly, you know, right. Like the tadpole that's a tadpole suddenly becomes like a supreme being. And I'm not saying that we're tadpoles. Well, I'm saying we are kind of in an evolutionary state of, you know, just an organism learning itself and learning through experiencing things in the self. So it is, again, it's a deception, because everything is about going inward, learning energy, learning your body, learning the body of bodies, the macro to the micro to the macro. You know, so you get to the point where eventually over your evolution and over all that you learn about energy, that you can create the energetic field that you want all around you, and thus manifest things. You know, this is something that requires a lot of consciousness. It requires all your consciousness. It requires the marriage of the spirit to the body. It doesn't require you just waiting for an event and then suddenly you're going to ascend. The minute before you were paying your hydro bill going to the grocery store. You know?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. We have to do it. There is no light switch, okay? This is the thing I say. I know everybody wants a shortcut. Like a lot of people, because it's pain, right? It's a painful reality. And I get it. We all know that. But there's no light switch that you can just hit and get there. You can't go from A to Z. You can't skip the slow steps that you need to take within yourself to be yourself. your whole infiniverse. You can't skip anything. You have to do it the hard way. There's no light switch. There's no, oh, suddenly the event's gonna like do it for you.
Yeah. Do you think that whoever creates these hypes, I don't really care, but I thought they are playing on the inner child, the wounded inner child.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely 100%, because the wounded inner child is every being here. And so that wounded child is easy to manipulate. You give, you put certain props in your reality and it like triggers that wounded inner child instantly. And that child is the one that wants to cling to whatever quickly. Like it wants the lollipop. It wants, it wants what it wants right away. Okay. It almost skips it's an arrested development state of reality, really, if you think about it, because if all of this is designed in such a way that it goes right into your wounded child, then your wounded child's going to believe the fantasy. It's going to want to believe the candy. It wants the candy. Right? The wounded child, if you say, no, honey, you have to grow up, and growing up is really hard, and you have to do it the hard way, because, you can't have candy. No. It doesn't want it. But it's easy to manipulate. Again, right? You terrorize a child, you terrorize a wounded child, and you get that ability to go in for life if that child stays wounded.
Yeah.
So,
and another thing, that this home was never really defined anywhere. So what if you end up in a hive mind of an AI and you think that's home?
I'm pretty sure I can tell you that does happen. Everything happens. Everything that you can possibly imagine is true, and nothing is true at the same time. Okay, so if you can imagine that, it's because it is true, because it is happening. And of course, it's a technology. You die. Even you dying is a technology. They've tweaked you so that you die. Disease, they tweaked you so that you get disease. Those are alien bodies in you that they supplant in your DNA. They are not even like, they're entities, literally. It isn't from you. It doesn't come from you. You don't grow an entity. So it's all done to you, essentially. So you can end up, just like death, it's a factory. There's a factory creation that is there set up to take you and corral you where they want. It's an engineered technological AI thing going on. It's another trap. So you die, guess what? You're now in the factory of the after death place. And you're chaperoned through the factory until like you're at the end point where they want you. Oh, okay. So, like a box of cereal, when it's finished and it's done and it's ready to go to the store, you know what? They're going to send you to the store that they want you to be in. It's a factory. You don't have to go there. You don't have to go to any of this, but you have to be conscious to not fall for it. I mean, in that, like, the Buddhists have it right in that way, that, the whole passage of death,
the bardo,
is so vital, because unless you're super conscious, you're going to end up in a trap. You're going to end up in that AI facility of recycling, reanimation.
Catch, rinse, repeat.
Yep, exactly. So there is, but you can't do that unless you're fully conscious. But to be fully conscious, you have to be conscious enough to know what the traps are. And the traps are often, this is why when you hear people's experiences when they die, and oh, I've met my loved ones were waiting for me and everything was there for me. And it was all like what I want. It was all based on what I want.
Mm.
See? Dangerous territory. What you want. What you want from the experience of this reality isn't necessarily what you are. It's what you've experienced, but that doesn't mean that's what literally you are. But they know your psyche, they know your pathology, they know exactly the designs, so they just can do it. They can mimic that to you when you pass over, and suddenly it's exactly what you had in your head. Like, come on. Yeah.
Yeah. But
I think with some people, I know with my experience, when I died, they didn't do anything like that at all. I went into the deep.
the
So, and I
void.
think, no, it wasn't the void,
Mm.
because it's the deep, totally different.
Mm.
The void is an artificial version
Mm.
connected to this anti-creation. That's the void. No, it was the deep, and the deep is beautiful. It's like the point. It's the point of all existence prior to existing.
Okay.
It's where, yeah, there's nothing that they can put in front of you. It's like when we were talking about the consciousness thing where, by the time they're done, like the ego is removed, right? It's kind of like that, where they can't play with you and they can't give you this, oh, look what you want, because you don't want anything here. So there's nothing that can be used, therefore they can't trap you, right? So then you go direct to the deep of what you are, what you've originated from. You don't end up going into any of the other things because there's nothing you want. You have to ask yourself, when you want something, then the nature of this reality, they will hack you, because want is not necessarily truth.
Mm.
So what you want isn't necessarily truth. It's just what you want. And the nature of this place takes your wants and creates whatever they want to be able to harness you more. So even if you die, they set everything up to give you what you want as a way to seduce you and then trap you.
Mm.
You have to ask yourself, what do you want? Like, why is want even a want? And what is that? The want is connected to your fear of being alone, of being all that you are as a being on your own.
And phonetically, to me, it sounds like the magic one.
Yes. And you absolutely, very wise, actually. Didn't even think of that, but that's exactly,
Mm.
that's not an accident, is it? Because everything is
No.
revealed in word, right? It's
Mm.
spell magic. So that's how it works. So the psychology of wanting is the trap here. And they can use the trap on all levels. Your soul, your ego, your mind, your body, your heart. Because you have a want, but what is a want? I know when I died, I didn't have any wants.
Mm.
Nothing. I was like, I'm not holding on to anything here because it's not real. This is not real at all. So I couldn't be manipulated. There was nothing in the deep.
Mm.
There was nothing in there because nothing could come in. Nothing could mess with me, because that's what happens. It's like you're empty of yourself. Like you're just empty of yourself and you don't cling to wants, because wants are connected to deficits within you that need to be filled with something from the outside.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard for people to grasp. They don't want to, and I get it, because you want to love what you love. You want to be with your loved ones, and you want all that. But you have that already. And if it's a want, then it's almost like you're acting out of not having it.
Yeah.
Does that
And
make any sense?
yeah, it makes sense. And a huge part of it is the entire realm of relationships,
Yes.
especially romantic relationships.
Yes.
And now you have a whole industry around that with relationship coaches and what have you. Because
Right.
everybody thinks, I need my other half.
Yeah. And that is a fallacy.
Mhm.
It's a nice psyop.
Yeah. But it works.
Oh boy, does it work. Because you know what works here the best is through the heart,
Mm.
through the heart chakra. Because
Mm.
that's where all of your needs, your wants, your desires, the pain, everything is through your heart. So they know how to manipulate it, give you, entice you, engineer something from your psyche that you just want so much, and then have it be a nightmare. Or you know, or even if it's so good, it's so amazing that you can't live without each other. So then you often hear of these couples that have been together forever and ever and ever, right?
Mm.
As soon as one dies, the other one dies right after, because they're
Mm.
not capable of being separated. But through that inclusion of such a tight knit connection, the possibility that they lost each other or lost their path is great, because if one literally has to die when the other one dies, it's almost like a dissolution of your own life. Like where's your own life? So they hack people through that way too. It's not always through like bad manipulative experiences. Sometimes it's through such good connections that you lose yourself,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
that you become embedded in each other, so you no longer know you and are no longer doing you. You're now not you, nor is your partner, whoever they are. It's now a new identity of a you two together, and you can't separate anything apart.
Yeah.
You can, so things get mixed up. Like what happens with that? Is that not a form of hijacking as well?
Oh, yeah, of course.
No.
Or you get lost because, you have one of these, as you said in your last video, either borderliners, narcissistic personality types, and what have you. And so many people think, especially women, I can love him back to life and sanity. And yeah, if only. And I will hold his hand and I stroke his two little heads. I wear
Yeah.
a golden dress and sing a few songs, and then everything will be fine.
I'll
Mm-mm.
just love him enough. If I love him enough, he'll
Yeah,
heal, or
yeah,
she'll heal.
yeah.
No, 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 no. That's almost a desperation, that you're desperately trying to love yourself when you do that. You don't even realize it.
Mm.
Because that's the mirror that's being presented to you, is through what you're living out through that person, and you're scrambling to think that actually if you love them enough, but by doing that you're saying you don't love yourself enough, that there
Yeah.
is no love for you, that you don't know how to love, like that you're so desperate for love that you're willing to be abused, and then still think if you just love enough.
Yeah.
But
And
maybe,
abuse is not only physical abuse.
no, not at all.
Mm.
Exactly. So it really is about, our story here is about learning how, what love is actually, to begin
Mm-hmm.
with. And love begins with you.
Yeah.
It does. Because when love is in you, then all things open up around you, and you can love everything truly, without this crippled version, without this handicapped version, without this deficit version of love that has conditions and has shame and guilt and has desperation and all these things that are your dark shadows being, played out. So because love is just, it's a state of being. You don't need anything from something you love. You don't hold it hostage to you. You let it be what it is in its own infinity and perfection, and you just enjoy that together. It's like you're enjoying two universes together, but you ask nothing of one another. You don't have, these commands and demands to fill the deficit, to fill the hole, to fill the heartbreak, to fill your heart, to heal it. Like, you heal yourself. We have to heal ourselves. We
Mm.
can't go out there. Again, it's no different than expecting an event to happen and then you suddenly ascend. It's no different when you're expecting something out there to come in and heal your heart. Like, yes, there are experiences that happen to remind us what that goodness is, and it helps us along the way to heal ourselves, but we must heal ourselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need some reflections on the outside to remind us of what that looks like, and it's there to help you, but it's not there for you to, hold on to it like crutches.
Yeah. And we are not saying you cannot have a wonderful relationship with anybody. That's nonsense.
Right, because if you have truly a genuine love without any of this other stuff that's playing out from your inner child, then you can have a beautiful relationship. Then you can absolutely evolve together and create beauty that is unlimited, eternal, change time and space, change and create worlds. Absolutely.
Yeah. I could go on for hours, but I know you have another appointment,
Yeah.
and I will let you go for now. You have to come back, Lauda.
I loved being on, Judith. It's great. I think you and I could really talk forever.
So thank you so much for being here. That was really wonderful. Was a great presentation. Thank you. Guys, that was it. Night flight for today.
Thank you, Judith. Thanks, everybody.
Okay,
Good night.
bye-bye.